everybody. Welcome to Dungeon Masters Guild Design Dash. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome, grab a seat. I guess same thing if it's not your first time tuning in. But let me tell you what you are about to encounter. Design Dash is the wildest slash maybe only D&D design game show where our sorry souls down here are going to be given a secret theme and 15 minutes with which to design a Dungeons and Dragons encounter. We always get really cool, very different designs from everybody that imagine the theme in lots of really cool, unique ways. So I am so excited. But anyway, I am Lysa Penrose. I am the brand manager over at Dungeon Masters Guild, one of your co-hosts today. And I'm joined today by a special guest co-host, Adriel. Introduce yourself.
I am Adriel Wilson, and I am the indie publisher relations representative over at Drive-Thru RPG. And I'm super excited to be here today because I had so much fun at the last Design Dash I was co-hosting.
That one was all about bees. So who knows what this one could be about? Let us meet our contestants. First is our returning multi-time champion, Omega Jones, the critical bard himself.
Hi, season's greetings.
For folks who don't know who you are, what do you do?
Too much. Yep. My name is Omega Jones, also known as the Critical Bard. Critical Bard across all social media channels. I am an actor, vocalist when the pandemic isn't happening. Other than that, I am a tabletop professional. I've designed a couple of things. I won't lie, I'm more of a player and a performer than a designer, but I do like to design every now and then. On DM's Guild, I have the College of Acapella, which is a bard subclass specializing in harmony and using the harmony that you have with your fellow party to either boost their abilities or destroy the enemy. I also have the Path of the Belter subclass for barbarians. Hey, there's a music theme because I'm a bard, which is basically Black Canary from DC Comics. If you want to rage, you can rage in the. So the idea was, just not to take up too much time, is that how would each subclass take the music of the planes and make it their own? And with barbarians, the main thing was raging. It's like, of course, when you rage, you belt, which is, really using your chest voice to really explode a cacophony of sound. So when they rage, they quite literally have a song on the screen, basically. So it's a lot of fun. You can check that out if you want. Exactly. I also do too much D&D on my channel and different channels, both as a player and a DM. I've worked with a multitude of different companies, including Critical Role, where I created the Critter Hug theme song. And yeah, that's really me. It's a lot. Check out my socials for everything else.
One or two things.
Yeah. Cool.
So, Omega, do you have any advice for Phil and Philippa for their first dash?
Yes, and it's two things of advice I can think of, really, really short. One, don't overthink it. You will do that and you will fail. Two, when you get your idea, stick with it. And hopefully you get that idea within the first 10 seconds. Because if you don't,
no pressure.
I didn't get my last time. I didn't figure out what I was gonna do until like 5 minutes in, and they only had like 10 minutes left. It was bad.
Oh, gosh. Goodness gracious. Wise words indeed, Grinning Greg in chat. So let's meet our next contestant, Phil.
Hi.
Phil, so how might folks know you from Dungeon Masters Guild?
I created and illustrated the tap on tap burn 5-color mana spell point variant rule systems that is continuing to have more content produced. It basically takes the 5-color system from Magic the Gathering and converts it into an intuitive spell point progression system that you can use instead of spell slots for every class, including warlocks. I also did all the illustration for the Theros Odyssey anthology series that Core Artificer and Sticky Hunter had headed up, which was fantastic to illustrate 30 different islands for 30 different adventures. I also illustrated and helped design the Adventures in Chronomancy, and my Twitter, which is here. You'll see lots of the artwork that I post. I build all the artwork myself and use that to help PM projects and give the people I work with a distinct look.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
A very prolific creator, especially if you're looking for Magic the Gathering related content over on Dungeon Masters Guild. So Phil, what of your design style do you think folks might see from you today in the arena?
I would like to say that I can incorporate color mechanics into something that goes on here, but I honestly don't know what we're going to be facing, so I don't want to pigeonhole myself. I like broad sweeping designs. I'm a big exploration focused pillar of adventure. So anything that can get the players rolling dice or asking questions about what's going on in the world around them is something that I'm more interested in than over combat or character depth.
I love that. And last but certainly not least, we have Philippa.
Hi.
So introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Philippa Mort. I also write things on DM's Guild. You may know me from Monsters of Candlekeep was the most recent thing I did, but I've also done a couple of adventures such as Spiretop, Intrigue in the Aarakocra City, and Temple of the Goddess. I've also done a few things on Drive-Thru RPG. I believe Ariel is involved in that, such as Witchcraft Craft Witch, which is all about sort of crafting spells and things, and just general writey things. I've also done a bit of DMing and GMing in various places on the internet, but you can find all of that on my Twitter, as well. There as well, and I do a bit of art as well, like Phil.
Oh, Phil and Phil.
Phil's unite.
Yes. So, Philippa, when you got the message, or you replied to my thread looking for folks who really wanted to dash, what did you do to prepare for your time in the Design Dash?
So first I was like, don't panic, don't prepare too much. Did want to revise the entire monster manual. Maybe watched too many of previous Design Dashes, but I did practice a few as well. But basically, most of the week was my partner going like, stop thinking about it. You're thinking about it too much. It's not that hard. So I just kind of was like, okay, I'm not going to try and prepare too much more than just, a bit of thinking and watching old things to think about structure, I guess.
Wonderful. I can't wait to see, to ask you later how that preparation helped or who knows, your encounter. But now we are about to reveal the secret theme. But before we do, I want to remind folks in chat that you play a very important role in Design Dash. During those 15 minutes where our 3 contestants are designing, Adriel and I will be chatting about the theme, taking a peek at their designs, but also working with you in chat to create a rubric on which to grade these 3 designs. At the end of the day, I guess the rubric doesn't matter because you will pick the winner over on Twitter, but it's fun, so why not, right? Okay, the secret theme, everyone do your own private drum roll, is what's a witchlight? Wrong answers only. What's a witchlight? Wrong answers only. So the upcoming Dungeons and Dragons book is The Wild Beyond the Witchlight, which I believe is the Witchlight Carnival. But we are going to see what else could a witchlight be? Or what is a witchlight? Definitely not, I guess, since it's wrong answers only. It is 10 past. So I'm going to give you till 25. We'll give you till 26 minutes past the hour, so you have that extra few seconds. Omega, Phil, and Philippa dash away. So we see the headphones coming out as folks. Oh, we're going to get some typing ASMR as well. I hope thine ears are ready, chat. So Adriel, when you heard this theme, what was the first thought that came into your mind?
The first thought that came into my mind was, what would my wrong answer be? Like, in my head, and please take this with a grain of salt, because I am maybe the least D&D player we have on our staff. So in my head, a witch light is just like the kind of light you see out in the foggy bog that you want to follow and get lost by.
Oh, like a will-o-wisp.
Yes, exactly. So that's like what I think a witch light is. So my first thought was like, if that's not what a witch light is, then probably a witch light is like, you know those black lights you can get to find out if your cats or dogs have messed up your carpet, or if they, or if you're seeing uranium glass at a thrift store. I was like, oh, it's clearly a light. You turn it on, you shine it on people. It lets you know if they're witches.
Oh!
What was
I
yours?
absolutely love that idea. I don't know if so I guess I know that Witchlight is the Witchlight Carnival. So in my mind, as long as you're not making that carnival, it's the wrong answer. So I feel like a will-o-wisp encounter could be pretty cool. I find them to be very like whimsical, but I was gonna say troubling, but that's not the right word. Whimsical, but like spooky creatures.
Yeah.
For sure. Chat, do you have any thoughts on what a witchlight is or isn't? And also, we need to figure out the scale for our rubric. So 1 to 5 somethings. I mean, it could be 1 to 5 will-o-wisps. And then 3 categories in which we're going to grade on that 1 to 5 scale.
My suggestion for a rubric, chat, totally up to you, but my suggestion is 1 to 5 pointy witch hats.
Ooh.
Because
I like that. Not round witch hats, pointy
No,
ones.
the pointy kind with the brim, and I love a good witch hat.
So I'm reading chat. Fantasy Ecology says, I immediately thought of the Aurora Borealis or a deep sea hag with bioluminescent hair.
Oh, that's cool.
That's really cool. I love that.
Yeah.
As we chat, I'm just going to, for those watching the screen, I know some people just listen in, I'm just going to cycle through folks' design pages so we can just see the little top bits. And I am seeing that in Phil's design, it says all about will-o-wisps at the top, so I'm going to get my will-o-wisp fix. I'm excited. Oh my gosh. Sounds of Bones says Witchlight, apostrophe WICH light, or sandwich light. You gotta help assemble oh my gosh, you gotta help assemble a health conscious sandwich.
Yes.
I love playing with wordplay here and spelling for misunderstanding or wrong the wrong answers. Sorry, I'm distracted a bit because I see that Phil deleted everything that he had put in and has started typing over. That is a bold move in the early minutes of Design Dash. I suppose bolder if it was like at the end and you started over. I'm interested in seeing how that pays off for him. Got to make a mental note to ask about that.
Yeah. Like, what inspired him to totally switch, and does he feel like, did that hurt him or help him? That's what I want to know.
Taking a look at Philippa's design, I'm seeing a little bit of wordplay on witch, witch, WITCH and WHICH. Fairy lights, I'm seeing Hansel and Gretel-esque, which that intrigues me. I would love to see what that is about. Okay, so let's chat. How do you feel about the rubric idea of 1 to 5 pointy witch hats?
I mean, I love it. Hopefully chat does too.
Yeah. I love it. Encounter-wise in sourced familiar to capture before the ritual completes. Ooh, that's a fun. Yeah. Okay. So what thoughts do we have on categories on which to grade in this rubric? Our scale will be pointy witch hats.
feel like we have to judge them on how much light is included.
Ooh, yeah. How much light? Or we'll say it's the brightest encounter.
Yes. Yes, I love that.
Okay. I think that's really fun.
Yeah.
Ooh, Fantasy Ecology says inclusion of a witch pun. I'm going to say, like, I'm
Yes.
going to bundle pun and wordplay and, like, spelling all together. So witch
Must
pun.
have.
Yeah, witch puns. All right, we've got 2 categories already. We need one more. Witchiest and lightiest could be, or lightest could be categories.
Oh, I
That's
like
true.
that.
And it could be witchiest. Witchiest. I like that. Most mentions of a familiar, says Grinning Greg.
Ooh.
That's a good one too.
I love a familiar. I am playing a game of Thirsty Sword Lesbians later today, and I am definitely gonna be Nature Witch and have a familiar. Like, if a game doesn't have familiars, what am I even doing?
Yeah, if there aren't pets for you to collect.
Yeah. I need a
okay.
cute animal buddy.
What I have written down for our rubric then is we're grading on a scale of 1 to 5 pointy witch hats. 1 will be the lightest encounter, so our brightest encounter. 1 will be the witchiest encounter. I should probably switch those, so it's witchiest and lightest for witch light.
Yeah.
And then the last will be how many witch puns are in it. Or it could be puns in general, because you could pun off of light as well.
Okay.
But I have a bonus category that unlocks if you have the presence of a familiar in your encounter.
Yeah.
So, like, fun. If this were like a physical. I was almost at a real game show, but you know what? We are a real game show.
Yeah.
But if this were a physical game show with like a studio and everything, I feel like fun lights would go off when someone like has a familiar.
Yeah.
Like lights that spin around in the light bulb.
Yes.
We don't have that budget. Ooh, let's see. Senior Hippie says witchlight or will-o-wisps that are sent to lure young mages to an old wishing well. Deep beneath the dried well lives an evil hag who is just using dancing lights. That's really, I like that.
Yeah.
Spooky.
That's fantastic.
So, for folks who haven't tuned in or haven't been paying attention to the Dungeon Masters Guild Twitter, I do want to call out that one of our contestants, Omega, a returning champion, and one of our friends in chat, Fantasy Ecology, are both on a show over on the One Bookshelf, which is Dungeon Masters Guild's parent company, the One Bookshelf YouTube called Pretty Little Liches. Which Adriel and I modded and watched last night, the premiere episode. It's Omega and Michelle Nguyen Bradley and Josephine McAdam and Gabe James Games, and then Zeke, who's the author of the Pretty Little Liches adventure that they are that he is running. And they are all playing level 20 characters, so epic Dungeons and Dragons, but using Dungeon Masters Guild player options from the community. So we've got my favorite thing, which you find out pretty early on in the introductions, so I don't feel like it's a spoiler. One of my favorite things is that the party is 2 undead, a sentient weapon, and a chef who was played by Michelle. And Michelle was basically like, but I'm a chef and you don't have to eat. No one on this party has to eat. Which I think was pretty fantastic.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. So if you totally missed that and you want to check it out and see these player options in action, maybe get the special coupon code just in in that video. Then head over to youtube.com/onebookshelf. And it's basically, I think, the latest VOD there. But look for the purple Pretty Little Liches thumbnail.
It was a great show, and I am super excited for the next installment.
Yeah, we've got 3. It's a mini series or trilogy. And I was about to say how the episode ended. I don't want to spoil anybody who didn't see it. Okay, I'm going to stop.
Yeah.
Stop. I can't wait to see what happens next. All right, let's take a little quick peek at these designs. So I'm looking at Omega's design. He has the theme at the top. What's a witch light? Wrong answers only. An encounter title, interesting, is witch all in caps. WITCH and then light spelled LITE. Oh, I wonder if it's... Okay, so we'll just read the quick synopsis. A young magician needs assistance as their master's book of spells has been stolen, and it is the last part of their becoming, a fledgling witch's ritual to become a full witch. Do you think it's like witch light? Like they are a witch light? This is so confusing because it's like spelled different ways, but it all sounds the same. Like they are a light version of a witch.
That's my guess. My guess is that like they're not a full witch yet, so they're witch light, and this is an adventure that's going to turn them into a full witch, and I'm super excited about that idea.
Yes. Fantasy Ecology in chat says, I need that app, to be honest. Witch light. Help me with my spells and charms, please. That's really fun. I'm also seeing that it takes place in the town of Lightenberg. So if we're talking puns and wordplay, I wonder if you think that counts. Just different ways people are using the words witch and light.
Absolutely.
All right, let's take a peek at Phil's. Break a leg. Oh, I wrote that. And then what's not a witch light? Ooh, all right. So Phil, it looks like, is designing a hex crawl. So I'm interested in seeing how this develops as an encounter. If he kind of focuses on one big encounter or is creating lots of little ones. But it does look like Phil is incorporating the different colors of the mana. It looks like, just based on this, what we have here at the top. So I'm excited to see sort of a mini version, a taste of those mechanics that he's created.
This is very exciting.
Philippa's what's a witch light? Wrong answers only. People disappearing from a village near the woods. That is a classic, a classic sort of adventure hook.
Yep.
I see that they have deleted the bit that said Hansel and Gretel-esque. I wonder if they decided to go in a different direction, or they incorporated it and so they kind of just crossed it out.
Yeah, or like, is it going to be something that might be or not mythologically, but like fairy tale connected, or just drop that idea and that's why no Hansel and Gretel?
I also wonder, and I'm thinking back to Phil's now, or I've clicked back, thinking back to Phil's, and I'm wondering if the Will-O-Wisps got the axe when he restarted near the beginning, or if they are going to be one of our random table encounters.
Fingers crossed.
Oh, Grinning Grig has a question. Did you specify this needed to be an encounter this time, or could a witch light have been a monster or a magic item? You know, Grinning Grig, I'm thinking back to it, and I don't know when I revealed the theme if I said it was an encounter, but I did have the contestants ask me beforehand if it would be an encounter, and I did say yes. But I love the idea of a design dash for making monsters.
Yes. Please, can we do that?
We need to do that in an upcoming dash. I'm not going to say which upcoming dash because I want it to still be a surprise, but in the coming months, I love that idea.
Yeah.
Especially with all of the it's time. I'm going to call time. Especially with time. With all the Feywild stuff coming up, that could be very cool to design like an archfey or something.
Yes, yes, yes.
All right. I see Omega's putting headphones in. I think Phil's back with us. Is Phil? Oh, all right. I almost made Philippa's design all red to get her attention. But hello, how was that? How was Phil and Phil? How was your first dash?
Loved it. Would do again. Recommend.
Yeah.
I did what I shouldn't have done, and I should have focused on the actual encounter, not the story behind it.
Well, I'm excited to hear the story. We've been taking a peek at everyone's designs and are pretty jazzed. Before we jump in, let me tell you the rubric that we all came up with. So we're grading on a scale of 1 to 5 pointy witch hats. We're going for the witchiest encounter. So how witchy is your encounter? The lightest or brightest encounter, so witchiest and lightiest encounters. And then the third is how many puns or like wordplay off of witch and light are there? There's also a bonus category that could be unlocked, but I'm not going to tell you what unlocks it. Omega, how about you start us off?
Oh my gosh. Again, you all, I think people have realized that I do story before encounter and it screws me each time. It's okay. So what's a witch like? Wrong answers only, then fine. Witch light is typically a light or something physical, but this is a witch light, like half a witch, like not really a full witch.
Wordplay.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, the quickest synopsis of it is that a young magician needs assistance as their master's book of spells has been stolen, and it's the last part of their becoming, which is a fledgling witch's ritual to become a full witch. In the town of Lightenberg, there is a tavern known as the Dimly Lit Pub. Adventure start in this tavern, doing whatever they want. After a moment, the already dim candlelight goes out and there's darkness. A mist rolls in as a mysterious individual stands in the doorway. She reveals herself to be Idaji, who seems to be a crone type of individual, withered with tattered robes. Anybody who's probably going to look and figure out what this is can do a perception or an arcana check. To tell that there's some kind of aura of magic surrounding this individual. She's looking for the Arcani Perfectum, which is a grimoire of every spell that a witch can muster. Anyone who does a good history check knows that this book is legend. Wait for it, dairy. They know that it contains powerful magics and typically is only held by a grand witch themselves. It's not really typically something that needs to be found, and yet this person wishes for it. If the quest is accepted, she will lead them back to a shack where she reveals her true self. A young, inexperienced witch who happens to be great at disguises. Her master promised her this book, and it's been taken by someone, and she desperately needs it back. She has traced the magic to a cave on the outskirts of town, but for some reason she can't enter this cave herself. She will pay handsomely for the book so she can finish the ritual herself to become a full witch. If they accept this quest, she will lead them, but she'll let them know where a cave is. They'll head to this cave. Do just a quick survival just to make sure you can get there. Not much really will happen. If you get there and do some investigating, you will notice some footprints on the ground outside of this cave. As long as it's good enough, it's a DC 15. But if you get more than that, if you get a 20, you will notice that there are more than one set of footprints and they are identical. Entering the cave with an Arcana check, it will reveal that there's a barrier that's been placed within this cave. Within the entrance of this cave, though, no one of the party is affected by this barrier. with a mandatory stealth check that I would then place upon them. If they get under a total of 15, two giant spiders will appear with an echo of "Leave me alone," cascading through the cave. A quick spider encounter, just to see what they can do. But the spiders specifically seek to restrain, not kill, which is the interesting part. Once the encounter is over, if they want to figure out what that voice is, I'd have them do a history check to place the voice. With a DC of 15, it sounds familiar, it gets darker and different. But if they get higher than that, if they get at least a 20, it sounded like Idaji. Coming into the cave, there's now an opening with a raised stone platform in the middle of it with an individual standing in front of it working on some ritualistic spell. As long as they get a total stealth of under 16, they won't be seen. This is where I effed up and time happened, basically. But if they are spotted, the figure returns to reveal that it is Idaji, but not. They have darker eyes. Their name is Okara. They are Idaji's shadow self, their other half. That's where I stopped.
No. Okay. So my first question is, wait, what happened?
So what happened? So what happened? See, again, this is my issue, y'all. I need more than 15 minutes. So what happened was when they tried to work on, so they're fledgling witch, this Idaji, which means half in Yoruba. She accidentally split herself into two, and that other individual stole the book to become a witch herself, which is Okara, which is also half in a different African language. And Okara wants to be a witch themselves and push Idaji away. So you would have to have taken the book from Okara, which would have been a whole battle, but only half the magic, just a little darker. And yeah, it would have been a good time. So yeah, witch light for me was you're only half a witch, but where's the other half?
Nice.
Whoa. I totally was not expecting that twist. At the end, my brain doesn't go to where's the other half of a fledgling witch, but that's so cool, very unexpected. Did that occur to you right away, or as you were designing?
The minute I typed out witch light, I knew it was half a witch, and then I knew that it was going to be about a witch who wasn't at their full potential. And as I was thinking about it, I said, "Oh no, they split themselves in half in accident." And that's why the barrier happened. Idaji couldn't get in because Okara set this barrier, but Okara couldn't get out. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, okay, so you say that you focused on story and not necessarily encounter building. But as you were going through this, you had like little notes for checks and other bits of mechanics in there. Not that mechanics make an encounter necessarily, story does as well. So you had both of those pieces. Don't undersell yourself there. Goodness gracious. Adriel, do you have any thoughts or questions for Omega?
I really want to play this. As soon as you said another set of footprints, I was like, oh, I bet it's another witch or something. And I got really excited about it. So yeah, I would super play this. And like, one of my favorite book series is Akata Witch, and it made me think of that. So I'm just like, yes, I want to play this. I want to find out what happens.
See, I was like, oh, it was the two spiders.
Valid.
All of my D&D characters have pretty bad perception and investigation anyway, so
and then
don't have to try too hard to role play.
The character from yesterday who had
32. Oh my god, a 32 passive perception. Another reason you need to check out Pretty Little Liches that I mentioned during design. All right, so Adriel, let's talk about this rubric, shall we? In terms of witchiness, how witchy on a scale of 1 to 5 witch hats would you say this encounter was?
5 witch hats. Like, this was super witchy because it's about this witch who is like split in two, and there's just a lot of witch happening
Yeah,
here.
multiple witches, processes
Yep.
for how witches become like
Yeah.
full-fledged witches. I usually am like, since it's the first encounter and you want to leave room, right? Usually I'm like, well, let's do like a 4, but it feels like this is definitely a 5, and we'll just see what happens if someone's witchier.
Yeah.
World
Yeah.
implodes and ends. I don't know. So
Then up to
5
6.
witchy. Yep. They said it wasn't possible. What about how bright is this encounter? The light side of witch light.
I would say like a 2. It's not super bright. It wasn't striking me as like full of brightness and light.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it was complete lack of light. There is a dimly lit candle specifically called out, so I feel like a 2 if we're talking about like those lights that have like a little slidey.
Yeah.
It would be a 2. 2 light.
Valid.
How many word plays did you count? I have a tally.
Forgot to count, so I'm glad you have a tally.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I noticed at least 3.
Yeah. So there were 3 if we're only doing Omega specifically did lots of wordplay and use of the word light. The dimly lit pub, Lightenberg,
Yep.
Witch Light. But we had specified witch and light based puns, but there's also the names of this character and their 2 halves.
That's true.
But it also wasn't in the original scope of this rubric. So what do you think?
But it was puns. So I feel like we got to give it to him.
Okay. Well, then if we're counting those, we have a total of 5 bits of wordplay.
Awesome.
Fantastic. What a strong start from Omega, returning champion for a reason. Let's see what Phil got up to. Thank you, Omega.
Which Phil?
Oh, Fil Kearney.
Hello. Okay. I'm guessing my screen is going to get shared, so I should probably look at it too.
Yeah.
Blurp, blurp, meow. Yeah. Okay, great. So I was able to incorporate color into this, which was awesome. Witch lights. So I'll just dive into it. So this is when I build stuff, I always think like toolkits, like recurring use, or even like a tournament, like for conventions and stuff. What this is it's a hex crawl. And the scale can be at any size, but it's like if like the settings could be like if it's like Faerun or any other generic campaign, it could be like swamp, like Marchlight, the Swamp Adventure that they published. This could fit into that, or it could be in Zendrick of Eberron, or in the Eldine Reaches, or Kabara of Eberron, and it could be pretty much anywhere in the Rubble Belts of Ravnica. That's where it fits in the most. But it's a hex crawl adventure, and that each hex has its own effect, that it's like a global enchantment that affects it. And a DM can plan what they are ahead of time, or you can do a random roll. You do a D5 for the levels, 1 to 5, or if you want to do cantrips, it could be D6, 0 to 5. And then you determine a color by random, and then just however many spells you can just roll off of that. So I rolled the 3, and then I rolled 1 for white, and then I rolled the spell was number 5, which is blink. So anytime that you're moving into this hex, there's a blink effect. The story here is that there are, I'll go down to the hook. The hook is, okay, the campaign world, the forest or the swamp in the area is emanating a soft white or blue radiance at night. And then people are starting to go missing, and they think it's linked together. So when people are going into this forest, they're encountering will-o-wisps, which isn't unusual for swamps, but the wisps are being affected by this global enchantment that's affecting the hex. So when you run across a will-o-wisp, it's either going to be emanating looking at blink, it's either going to be emanating a white or a blue color, matching the radiance that you see inside of the area that leads people, the adventurers initially into the hook to find where all those people missing. Well, they're being affected by it, by the blink spell effect. So when people get targeted by it, they get pulled from reality into the Feywild or ether or whatever adjacent plane is, most of Shadowfell, even if you wanted. And so all the encounters are you going through, and will-o-wisps will be able to buzz you, and they are releasing this radiance. So anyone that gets within their light is shunted or blinked or exiled into the adjacent plane, where they could engage with fey creatures that are on that side that may be tormenting the creatures with psychic attacks. So you can occasionally see them, and sometimes you can't. There can be a setup where, if we're looking at different options, like there could be will-o-wisps or pixies that are using this aura radiance to play trickster stuff with people, but they could also be disgruntled by the witch that is controlling the hex. And so depending on which ones you run across is going to determine if you pick up allies that can help you by using their blink magic to coordinate your attacks to hit things in the ether or the fey versus the material plane. The hex that controls the witch that controls this hex has a lair that's partially in the other realm and partially here. So you need to have, you need to time yourself and use different detection spells or spell casting checks to see if you can pick up on which passages are available to you as you storm the fortress or the lair of the witch. And if you, once you are able to push the witch out, it could just be that single hex and it's just a one shot and you're done, or it could be a full campaign where there's a cascade of hexes, and that was just the one boss of that particular hex. And when you defeat that witch, you can then do a ritual to coalesce the magic into a dragon shard, so that you could use it as like a once per short rest renewable magic source. In this instance, it would be blink, but it could literally be any spell that the DM chooses because he wants it to be a challenge. Like it could be like if you're first level, a beginner campaign, you might just start with cantrips and first level spells. But if you're like fourth tier, you could be looking at fifth level or even higher level spells that are just this you have to constantly deal with, like Animate Dead. If that was active, anytime you kill an opponent, they would pop back up and continue attacking you. So you're just accumulating this army of enemies behind you that you can't really get rid of. You have to shut down the enchantment to knock them all out, and then you control that stone and you can move on to the next hex. So that's basically the gist of it.
It makes will-o-wisps too powerful.
Suck it up.
I was looking at the little table that you made. So to help me understand, if the DM rolled that this was under the Conjure Animals enchantment, could will-o-wisps just like conjure the heck out of some animals?
Yeah, they just pull in animals to attack you or help you, depending on who it was. It's just whatever the random effect is, how would the DM deem that you could utilize that to either help or hinder the party, whichever alliances they create or what enemies they produce as a result.
Oh my gosh, Chaos Bolt is on this table. Could you imagine if like they rolled Chaos Bolt?
Yeah, it'd be all sorts of colors.
That is really wild. I loved that you came up with a system where folks can generate encounters and then gave us an example of how you can use it to generate an encounter, because really it's like using this spell and these creatures as prompts for the encounter. Like, what if this place was all about animal friendship? That would be a nice one.
That'd be awesome.
That hex would be nice.
You might actually want to leave the stone in place after you defeat the hex, because now all creatures inside of there are predisposed to being helpful to you. And imagine how the community that's being affected by it could utilize that if crocodiles were willing to help you instead of eat you.
Yeah.
It's really open for different role-playing options.
Oh gosh, Alarm. That sounds awful. Can you imagine how loud that region would be? So
You're hired to stop the noise.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Even just going through and hearing the spell and imagining what would that be like on a grand scale, like a whole area, is a really fun exercise that honestly I hadn't thought about before. So I love your design here just for that alone. Adriel, do you have any thoughts?
It sounds really exciting and fun, and I think that I would really enjoy playing that. And we had been talking while you guys were designing about Will-o'-the-Wisps, so I'm excited to see them in such a large role here.
I'm laughing because Grinning Grig in chat says, I want to see Will-o'-wisps with catapult.
Oh my god. Yeah. That's a second, third tier for sure. That would be brutal.
That is absolutely a delight. So Phil, I guess my only question would be, how did you feel about that 15 minutes design time? And if you had more time, like say like a whole week to leisurely work on this, where do you think you would have put your time?
Oh, wow. If I had a whole week, what I would probably do is create a few 5-room dungeon layers, one for each hex, and then have those on a random table. So you could, like, if this was like a tournament that you're doing, like a 3-hour session at a game con, you could roll up like 6 hexes, knowing that the party's probably not going to get through more than 2 during the 3-hour period of time. And then just just set up all the things that you need, what the spell effect would be, how you could scale it depending on what the different levels are, like different CRs for the kind of things that are manifested, create some distinct personalities of people that might be lost in there with you, that are trying to maybe get, like, if they get pulled into the ether or the Fey realm, then how do they get out? So now you have a rescue mission to go along. And have a couple different bosses that you can mix up personalities. Maybe do something like different colored themed bosses, like a red witch, white witch, etc. And they could have rivalries. So like if you go to one hex and you make friends with the white witch, then maybe she's got a beef against the blue witch in the next hex over, and you can influence her to get access to her.
Like everyone's got beef with the blue witch.
Oh, yeah.
Honest. That all sounds fantastic. Adriel, let's talk rubric for a minute here. So on a scale of 1 to 5 pointy witch hats, how witchy would you say this encounter was?
I would say it's like a 3.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, there are the bosses, but I don't necessarily think of them as the core part of this design. So I could say 3 witchy. Yeah. They're there. What about in terms of how bright this encounter is?
I feel like with that many Will-o'-the-Wisps all over the place and stuff, it's got to be super, super bright.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was just imagining lots of Will-o'-wisps, especially if they had the lightning spell. Yes. It's just a very bright. So 5 bright. Yeah. What about wordplay? Did you catch any? I don't think there was a focus on wordplay in this particular design.
There wasn't a lot of wordplay.
Yeah. All right. I don't know if one can give, well, we're counting here, so no wordplay for this one. All right. Thank you, Phil, for sharing your encounter with us. We are going to move along to Philippa's design.
Hey.
Okay. Shall I start?
Yeah, dive right in.
Yeah.
Okay, so as you can see, I started with the premise, instead of a witch light, what if it's witch light? Which light is which? The beginning is kind of similar theme of like Will-o'-the-Wisp, but they are not Will-o'-the-Wisps, they are fairy and party lights. So people have been disappearing from Fenton Village into the nearby woodland. They've emerged days later, exhausted and addled, unable to remember what happened, and so the adventurers need to investigate. So they chat to a local young lady, Isabella, who was found outside of the wood. She can't really remember much, but maybe you can help jog her memory, perhaps with a spell or just like talking to her. And all that she remembers is some strange dancing blue lights. Her muscles ache all over like she'd been running and jumping all night, and a strange memory of seeing herself as if she was looking in a mirror. So if you go to investigate the woods, you found all of these sort of glowy flowers that are kind of linked together a bit like fairy lights, which lead into the woods and deeper into the thicket. Along the way, if you want a little surprise, there are some spiders. Sorry, Vegas. Some spiders who attack everyone, but their eyes are glowing with a strange blue light. And if you defeat them and you investigate, if you touch the light, you have to do a wisdom save. On a success, there's no effect, but on a failure, the person who touched the light gets glowing fingers and it goes all the way up to their eyes, and they are bewitched for 1 minute and cannot work out which light is which. Tell us from before I found out about the puns. So, so they're kind of confused and they don't know where they're going and which lights to follow. Animal handling checks can reveal also, it seems like the spider was also confused, like it was perhaps following the lights just like you are. So, going deeper into the forest, it gets weirder and weirder. The trees are all glowing, like up from their roots, and the lights are dancing around the path, creating lots of confusion. You might even get lost and follow lots of different paths to begin with. So, you kind of get distracted by which lights you should follow. Finally, you emerge into a large hedge maze with glowing lights illuminating all of the different paths you can take. And so the question is, which light is the right which light? So an investigation or survival check will help you find the right path. A success means you get there in the early evening to the centre of the maze, but a failure means you don't arrive until well into the night. So, part 3, excuse my bad spelling. Approaching the centre of the maze reveals various tired townspeople collapsed around the outside. Most are confused and babbling about an absolute rager of a party. At the centre, the lights fan out to reveal a huge party full of centaurs, doppelgangers, naughty imps, and cheeky pixies who have arranged all of the lights into sort of like a disco ball. They're luring townspeople to have a massive ongoing party that never ends because the party power powers their revelry. I'm thinking perhaps you could set this in somewhere like Theros and be like ritually channeling this to the god Pan or something like that, or Bacchus. So the question is, do you stop the party? If you want to stop the party, you need to have a dance fight. So you've got to dance against your own doppelganger, hence why Isabella saw herself earlier. So I was thinking, I didn't write this down, but perhaps you could, instead of having to attack like normal with your weapons, your attack actually does like a dance move and you fail against them or something like that, or perhaps like a charisma save. It's also made harder by all of the various lights around, making the dance floor really hard to see, so you're going to have to do continual wisdom saves as well to kind of keep on the top of your game. You can also try and use your magic to try and stop it, but the creatures will be upset and they will chase you out of the maze, which will be quite hard because you won't be able to tell where you're going. Or you can join in, but you will gain a level of exhaustion for partying too hard, and you'll be sensitive to bright light for a day afterwards due to the confusing lighting, which light becomes a question of all lights for the next day. And you can very slowly make your way out of the maze, very tired after partying much too much, and asking which light was the right which light after all.
Oh my gosh. Philippa, okay, first of all, it is a marvel how much of like a very comprehensive fleshed out encounter you were able to create in such a short amount of time. Well done. Well done. I also love just the bits of like flavor, like little details you put in, like those trailing like flower lights made this very visual for me as you were describing it. Adriel, did you have anything to add to that?
I want to go to this party. Like, this adventure sounds like so much fun. So
I was actually thinking of there's like a play that happens near us outside in the summer where they put on like a Shakespeare play, and the way up is like lined with trees, and they put all these fairy lights, and they did Midsummer Night's Dream and had people like in the forest like tempting you to the place. I was kind of thinking of that,
cool.
That's
like
awesome.
similar, like lined with trees, like, ooh, where are we going?
Oh, I want to go to there. That is incredibly fun. Very Feywild, and I love that it ended at a party. So it's maybe you might say mischievous, but it's still very bright. Like it feels bioluminescent, like a night aglow. That is the vibe that I get. So Adriel, let's jump right to the rubric for this one. How witchy would you say this was?
I would give this at least 4 hats.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah.
I think I would give this 4 hats as well. Everything just felt very, very magical.
Yeah.
How bright would you say this was?
5 bright. Like, it was so bright.
It was glowing.
The fairy lights, the party, like, that's my kind of light and had it all.
All right. For wordplay, I counted the will the party stop the party one. And like all the times that like the little phrases that added on to each other about which light is the right light and onward.
Yes.
And I counted 4, but I don't know if my count was perfect. But does 4 sound right to you?
It does. Like, I think there were at least 4 or 5.
All right.
For sure.
Okay. So, with that, we will award some superlatives to folks as we do outros. But a reminder to all that you are in charge of seeing who won this Design Dash challenge. And I do have like a special little announcement to make, which is that next month, Omega, who has been champion for a number of episodes, is actually going to join me as a guest judge. So this month's poll is going to be Battle of the Phils.
There can be only one.
There can be only one. So keep that in mind, everybody, and head over to @DMs_guild as soon as this show is over. Maybe give me like 5 minutes, and I'll get that Twitter poll up for you all. So let's do some outros in backwards order. Philippa, tell folks who you've been and why should they vote for this Phil.
Cool. So I've been Philippa Mort. Again, you can find me on Twitter, it's all above. And you should vote for me for more strange, bad puns, and more dance parties.
Yes. All right. Thank you very much, Philippa. Phil.
Hey, Fil Kearney here. Check out my Twitter above for art in the books and what I've got next on plate. Invite me back to get more suggestions about toolkits that you can use to implement in your campaign tomorrow.
Excellent. Thank you, Phil. Omega, can't wait for you to join me at the judges' table.
Very, very excited about this. Just waking up being like, oh my God, so much fun. Yeah. Omega Jones, also known as Critical Bard. You can catch me everywhere. Literally in about an hour, I'll be streaming some Dead by Daylight. I do too much. So honestly, if you want to know what I'm doing, just check out my socials. It's been a lot of fun being able to do this.
Awesome. Thank you, Omega. And Adriel, thanks so much for co-hosting with me this month.
Anytime.
Let folks know where they can find you.
So, Adriel Wilson, I'm the Indie Publisher Relations Rep at DriveThruRPG. So if you email publisher services at One Bookshelf, you got me. And even if you have a question about one of our other sites, I will make sure you get to the right person. And if you want to know about my design and TTRPG stuff, you can catch me on Twitter at ReindeerB.
Thank you, Adriel. And I am Lysa Penrose. I'm the brand manager over at Dungeon Masters Guild. You can find DMs Guild at DMs_guild on Twitter and Instagram. Head over to the Twitter for that poll for next month's Design Dash. You can also follow me personally at Lysa Penrose, pretty much everywhere. And I am going to plug 2 things. First, as I mentioned during design, everyone head over to youtube.com/onebookshelf to check out that Pretty Little Liches premiere. It was so good. Definitely check that out. As I mentioned, Omega's in it. Fantasy Ecology in the chat is our dungeon master. So go check that out. And then my personal plug is if you liked the witchy part of all of these adventures, then your girl is kickstarting an Oracle deck right now. So head over to @Lysa Penrose to check that out. That's my random plug.
Lysa put that link in the chat. I did not know that.
Yeah. Oh, well, I pre-launched it, so go sign up for notifications. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. I will see you all next month for Design Dash. Till then, may the dice roll in your favor. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.